everyone, it's Rachel here. So yesterday I actually wasn't feeling very well. The only thing good about that was I actually got a lot of reading done, so I just want to give you a quick reading update on the 3 books that I finished yesterday. Now the first book that I read was Coraline by Neil Gaiman, and this is actually a middle grade book. I felt really silly going into the middle grade section at my library. Not that there's anything wrong with adults reading younger books, except the fact that it's all like caged off and I had to push between like 5-year-olds to actually get to the books, and all the parents are watching and it's just awkward. But I digress. I've never actually read anything by Neil Gaiman before, so I'm very interested in checking out his adult works of fiction now, because I really enjoyed this. Now for those of you who don't know, this book is about a girl named Coraline who moves into an old house with her parents. She finds this door that leads to a different world that looks just like her own, except that the parents over there, her mom and dad on that side, are called her other mother and her other father. And instead of normal eyes, they actually have buttons for eyes. So this was just an excellent short read, because it's middle grade, obviously it didn't take me very long. But considering it's meant for younger kids, it's surprisingly creepy. The pictures in this book, let me see if I can find some of them. They're absolutely terrifying. I hope you can see this on camera, but like the pictures and what he's describing is actually really creepy. I like Coraline as a main character. She's very precocious, and I felt that even though his target audience was, again, middle grade, I felt like he put a lot in there for older readers, or maybe he just wrote things in to entertain himself, because a lot of what Coraline says is extremely insightful and something that a little kid wouldn't actually probably say or wouldn't know to be thinking about. If you've never read Coraline growing up, don't be ashamed, be brave, go into the middle grade section at your library and check out a copy of it, because it's really good. I've also seen the movie, which was really, I don't know, it's really a fun, creepy movie to see. Now the next book that I read, or rather listened to, was The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I don't need to say too much about this book because I think everyone and their dog has read this book before I have. This is a book about a girl named Hazel who has terminal cancer, and she meets a boy named Augustus Water, and the story takes off from there. I was really nervous to pick it up just because there were so many 5-star reviews. Everyone loved it, and I was like, well, what if I'm the one person who doesn't like this book? But my fears were totally unfounded. I absolutely love this book. The character development is amazing. I don't know, I was so attached to the characters. I did mention this is actually, you can tell it's an audiobook that I got, not the actual physical hard copy. The reason I'm just gonna try doing more audiobooks. For me, I spend so much time, cooking and cleaning and commuting that I often don't have a lot of time in my day to actually sit down and physically read a book. The audiobook for this was extremely well done. This was the book, it was narrated by a woman, I can't seem to find her name, Kate Rudd. I know there's another copy that John Green read himself, which would also be really good. I really enjoyed this copy of it though. With a female narrator, I think it just made sense because it was told from Hazel's perspective, but absolutely loved it. If you haven't checked it out, I'm sure everyone but me has read this. It was great. I give it 5 stars out of 5 on Goodreads, and I'll definitely be rereading it. I want to pick up a physical copy of this just because it's always a bit of a different experience reading a book as opposed to having it be read to you. But regardless, I love this book. It is worth all the hype on YouTube. This is a book that is hyped, but not overhyped, because it's actually as good as everyone is saying. Now the last book that I picked up was The End of Your Life Book Club. Now this book is a memoir. It's told from the son's perspective, who is watching his mother fight with cancer. During her chemo appointments, they have 3 to 7 hours at a time where they're sitting around and waiting, and during that time they started informally by just saying, hey, well, what are you reading right now? And oh, what are you reading? And eventually they kind of formalized it so that they would be coordinating what books they were reading together, and so every time they would have a chemo appointment they would discuss books. Originally I actually picked this book up because I wanted to get some book recommendations. So essentially I started reading this book because I really just wanted to see what books they were reading and maybe get a couple other books to add to my own to-be-read list. However, the reason I finished reading this book was because I got so wrapped up in the story of the mother. She's just such an interesting character. They do come from a wealthy family, but even with that they really address the fact that the mother is so frugal that, she always loans her books and borrows copies, and even though she is actually quite well off, like, she lives a very frugal life. and is extremely generous. She spent most of her life working on issues about refugees. Particularly her life goal was to build libraries in Afghanistan. So it was just a really interesting to read about this woman's life, to read about her through her son's eyes. I wouldn't pick this up for the sole reason of just wanting to read about what books they read, because that's almost a subplot. It's something they discuss, but the reason they start discussing a book and then it leads into a bigger discussion of the son going, well, did you ever feel like this character, Mom? And you know, when asking, it really became a way of talking between the mother and son. They would talk about the characters and what they felt about it, and that would lead to bigger discussions about their life. So at first I wasn't actually that impressed with this book because I wanted to hear, I was like, who cares about this mom? Who cares about the son? Yeah, she's dying of cancer. You know, tell me more about the books. And if you go into it with that perspective, you're going to be missing out, because it's part of the book, but it's not all of it. And you know, you kind of, once I switched gears, suddenly I love this book. I gave it 5 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. I would recommend this book to anyone who loves reading, who loves a good story that really revolves around the relationship of a mother and son, as well as kind of the importance of someone's life, and really going through what's the most important thing when you reach the end of your life. The main thing that I loved about this book that the author discusses is he says that we're all actually in the end of our life book club, whether we know it or not. What he argues is that even if you are perfectly healthy, you could be hit by a car tomorrow, and the book you read today could be the very last book that you ever read. So it really makes you think about what are the most important things to be reading and what matters to you. And for me personally, that really reminds me to not waste my time reading books that I don't like, and not to save the books that, you know, there's some books that I'm like, oh, I'm saving that for the right moment, and oh, I don't want to read that yet because then it will be done, and I you know, I want to look forward to it. But it really reminds you, you know, read the books you want to read. Don't wait for tomorrow, because you honestly, no matter what, you never know what tomorrow will bring. And I love that message in the book. I would, recommend this to anyone who, I don't know, I'd really recommend this to a large audience. I think that there's so much in the book that will speak to different people at different times. This is definitely a book I'll be rereading. I'd like to pick up my own copy of the book. I might even do that this morning. We'll see. Otherwise, absolutely love this book. Again, 5 stars. Go check it out. It is so worth the read. It's very quick. It's like 300 pages. That's about it. And definitely check back. I'll have more reviews coming up. Thanks everyone. See you.